Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Top Billers Toolkit, where me and my twin brother interview top billers from all around the globe to unlock the secrets to their success. Today's guest is Samuel Kippen. In his first year of recruitment, Sam billed a respectable 90k. In his second year, he billed 160k. And in his third year, he managed to jump all the way up to 620k. An insane number for someone so new to recruitment. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the biggest shifts that Sam made in his third year that allowed him to more than triple his billings, the exact BD strategies that Sam uses to fill his pipeline, and Sam's going to be talking us through the exact things he says while he's cold calling prospects to get them talking and to differentiate himself as a recruiter. Sam is a lovely dude and he's accomplished so much in such a short period of time. We hope you enjoy this episode as much as we did. And as usual, grab a cuppa or a glass of wine, depending on when you're listening to this. And let's get into it, shall we?
Sam, thank you so much for joining us today, mate. I'm so excited to be speaking to you. I know we kind of went back and forth for quite a while, but I'm glad we finally have you. So thank you for joining us, mate.
Likewise, yeah, it's been some time trying to coordinate it up, busy schedules, but I appreciate you guys making time as well.
Awesome, mate. Let's just jump straight into it, Sam. Let's go with the first question, which is, what's the number one tool in your toolkit, whether it be a mindset, strategy, or software?
Yeah, I've heard you guys ask this question, and I was trying to think of ways to have a different answer than what I've heard on the podcast. But everything truly did keep leading back to the number one kit tool. The number one tool in my kit is just mindset. It's simple as, there's no other way about it. I tried like hell to try to find another word to use or phrase to use, but it truly is. Yeah. I wanted to be different so bad, but it truly is just the mindset you put forward.
That's so interesting. I love how it's almost like me and Sam kind of predict 9 times out of 10 that people are going to say mindset, but it's not. It's just the truth. Like, you can't escape the truth of what makes people successful, which is mindset. But what does that mean to you, Sam? Like, when you say mindset, because I know that's quite a broad term, mindset, but what does that mean to you, do you think, like in terms of what has helped you to become a top biller with regards to mindset? What do you think it is in particular?
Well, it's kind of what I was trying to do was be different. You kind of want to stand out from everyone else, from the status quo. So that's my mindset is trying to do stuff different, do things that other people won't, be willing to go the extra mile and push yourself. So that my mindset is never settling. I think I can always do more, and I think there's always stuff that I can learn or progress with. So I guess that mindset is kind of what led me to becoming a decent biller.
What created that mindset though, Sam? Because to have that mindset of like going the extra mile, trying to be different, I think most of the time it doesn't always. Sometimes I speak to people and they're just wired that way, and that could be you. But there's also other people where they've had an experience or there's something in their brain they want to accomplish, whether it's a pain they're trying to fill in for or a desire. What is causing your mindset to be at a top level, do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because there's a lot of different things that go into that. Because growing up, I was always actually quite a switched on kid, where I was focused on. I was a baseball player all through growing up. That was my sport growing up. Absolutely loved it. I mean, grinded. I was in the batting cages on the field, almost every day of the week. That was my grinding. I was actually quite good. I know everybody says that after the fact of their career, but I like to think that I was quite good. But I was really grafted, and then probably about, I don't know, midway through my college career in baseball, it got to a point where I was kind of over it, and I was done with it, and I ended up joining a local college baseball program called Cortland State. It's a college I went to finish my degree at. But it was a D3 school in upstate New York, small college, but it's got a very storied history in terms of their baseball program. It's a very good baseball program, and it's headed by, a really incredible leader and coach. My mindset truly going into what I wanted to get away from was the graft and the graft and the graft. And I just wanted to get away from that and just finish it out. But it's funny enough when I did get into that situation, I came into this program that I was expecting just to coast into my retirement, but it was actually quite the opposite. It was a program where they demanded the absolute most and excellence out of you,
Wow.
which was different than what I wanted at the time. But I think in the long run, really, really, really helped me in not only in the baseball sense of, all right, I finished my career on a high note, but in the sense of bringing what I learned from that program into my personal and professional life, I think really allowed me to excel, which was great. They had a mindset there, which I'll speak about more at length if you want, but they had this like train like a champion, game knows type of mentality, which in essence what that is that no matter what you're doing on or off the field or in and out of the classroom or in and out of the office, whatever it is, your results will show by what you put into it. Your
Mm.
game knows. So if you're doing the right things all the time and you're continuing to have the right mindset, the game knows and the game will reward you for
Mm.
the effort that you're putting in. So that's kind of what I've liked to translate into my professional life now is, it's not necessarily game knows. I guess you could say recruitment knows.
Mm.
Um, but for the most part, yeah, it's that mindset of don't settle. This is the way to do it. And honestly, a lot of what I take into account now is that one leader that we had, the coach. His name's Joe Brown, actually. At the time, I think I hated him. When I look back, I'm like, you know what? He's probably really good for me.
Mm.
Um,
That's
but
so interesting.
but he was the guy who just, he was the typical old school hard ass, coach. And one of my favorite things that he says, to everyone, and what I say to myself now is, if you did something good or you hit a home run or you made a play, you'd probably want a lot of praise and accolades for it or whatnot, or accolades, but you'd get in and he'd go, that's what you're supposed to do. So,
Mm.
get on with it. Yeah.
That's
So
really interesting.
Love that.
yeah,
So,
no, I went off on a little tangent there, but
No, that's really
that's
I
really
interesting.
like that little
interesting.
story. Yeah.
So it sounds like
Good.
that experience of you were just about to coast and then you kind of got thrown into this. It sounds like elite performance team that basically said, "No, Sam, you're gonna go the opposite. You're gonna go 100 miles an hour
Exactly.
and you're gonna play to the
Yeah.
best of your ability." Out of
Yeah.
interest, and we can move on from this soon, but I'm just interested. You got there, you were expecting to coast. What were some of the things they were asking you to do that was like the opposite? You just mentioned a few, but in terms of specific like training regimes, was there anything that was like, "Oh my God, this is insane"? That kind of happened.
It wasn't necessarily insane. It was just intense always. We had early morning, 6 a.m. workouts. You'd go to class all day, then you go to 2.5, 3 hour practices at night, and then you're doing
Wow.
homework. So it was just, it was an always go, go, go. You got something to do. We're never going to let up type of program. If you weren't in
Mm,
class and you were sitting at home, you weren't expected to sit at home. You were expected to go to the weight room or go hit
mm,
baseballs or go play catch or something. Do
mm,
something. Don't just sit and be idle.
mm.
So it was kind of like a always be going type of mentality, not necessarily anything that you'd think, like the David Goggins mindset or anything like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was a nice little just keep going mindset.
So it
awesome,
sounds
man.
still pretty intense in terms of the commitment, as well as everything else. Like, that's a lot of time. But it's really interesting, Sam, because I'm guessing you took that mentality into recruitment. So maybe we can transition. How did you then? I know this isn't in the questions, but I'm actually now curious. How did you then start into recruitment? Can you kind of go into that journey of, okay,
Sure.
you're here and now you've got your first. You might be skipping a few steps, but maybe you could tell us the journey
Yeah.
into recruitment.
Yeah, yeah. So I graduated college during COVID actually. So in 2020, which was an interesting time to go out into the professional world. But I actually didn't get into recruitment until about a year and a half or 2 years after I graduated college.
Mm,
I actually got recruited into recruitment from another sales job that I was in. I was doing leasing for a mall company in the Northeast in the U.S. But yeah, I actually got recruited into a small boutique firm that was up where I was from, up in upstate New York. Um, and it's interesting you say what you say as well, because honestly, it's almost like history repeated itself there, which was, I was in a situation in my first sales role that I wasn't necessarily happy. I
Mm,
was working really hard, but I wasn't seeing any results for it. And
mm,
Mm.
so, I was kind of in a similar situation to where I was like, oh well, maybe I'll just go do this and it'll be a steady income and this, that, and the other. But again, I got thrown into what was maybe not a high intensity, high performing, boutique firm, but a firm that demanded really, really high level, good work, which was good to go into. So I've got recruited into that. I spent about a year at that firm, and then I made my transition over to WRS, which coming up on my 2 year anniversary here in May.
amazing. It
Interesting.
it sounds
And
like, sorry, Ben, I just want to, because it's quite funny. Whenever it feels like the universe keeps on sending you messages, Sam. Like whenever you think about coasting, it's like, no, no, don't even think about it. You're
Exactly.
gonna do the
Yeah.
opposite. It's
Yeah. The
happened
universe
twice
is on
now.
my side for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
it's on your back. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting.
Sorry, Ben, what are you gonna say?
No, I was going to say so, and I feel like part of the reason we have you on the pod, Sam, is that you've well, there's quite a few reasons, but one of the main ones is that you've achieved quite a lot in a short space of time.
Mhm.
Am I right? You like was it the third year you did 620K? Is that right?
Yeah.
Third, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. My
interesting. So that,
third full year in recruitment.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Crazy.
insane. Like that's amazing. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
unusual.
Yeah.
What I'd love to ask first, just to see the transition, what did you bill in your first and second year? I just want to see what the differences compared to the third year, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah. The first year, oh gosh. Yeah, it feels like I've been in recruitment for like 10 years,
Yeah,
just
That's
over
what
the
it does to
past.
you.
Yeah. But the first year I think it was quite low.
that's
Because
normal.
it was very, very niche engineering type, manufacturing engineer type role. So it wasn't a very high volume. I think I probably only did about 80 or 90K in that
Yeah.
first year,
I mean, that's
probably.
normal, Sam. That's what you would expect, I think, for a lot of recruiters. And then the second year, what did you do in the second year?
Yeah, so the second year was a little bit interesting because I was still in a 180 capacity in my second year, but that's when I had joined WRS. Originally came in on the renewable side, which was a little bit the renewables market here in the U.S. was a little bit shaky at that time, so I ended up making
Mm,
a transition a few months in to the construction team here at WRS, which we had just started. So that year, which was probably only about 7 months. I think I did right around 160 or 170,000
cool.
in terms of 180.
Cool. This is why I wanted the figures because now 600. So you've made this insane increase
Yeah,
from one and one to. I mean, second year was still great. First year is kind of what it's still good, but it's kind of normal. But
right.
then you've gone on to like completely transform your results in year three. So that's kind of what I wanted to figure out is what do you think had the biggest impact? Because that's a huge increase. So what was the biggest catalyst for you to make that jump? Do you think in the third year?
Yeah, I think it's probably two things. One, I was a lot hungrier to make money and
Mm,
like just start my journey in wanting to earn a high income. That's what probably motivates me the most, I would say.
Mm,
But the second portion of that is that I was able to I was I was awarded the opportunity to go into a 360 role, which has just,
mm.
I mean, far and away, I don't think you can. I mean, you can be successful in a 180, but in a 360 role, you just have so much more opportunity to be successful, and you're getting 100% of your deals, so it's nice.
got
Interesting.
it. So that's
Cool.
actually a huge point. I completely forgot about Sam. So forgive me. But you were 180 for the first 2 years. Am I right in saying that? And then the third year, you're 360.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's interesting. So that's
yeah,
so you're getting a bigger. Obviously, you're getting a bigger portion of the pie. You're getting the whole pie, or maybe not the whole pie because the company takes some, but
sure.
you're
Yeah,
keeping
they,
a
they
lot of
do.
it.
Yeah, they do keep a fair bit of it. Yeah, but I get my fair share. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just so much different. You do have a lot more control on every part of the process and what you can earn. I think it's more of a It's more of an entrepreneurial spirit when you have that 360 because you are running your own desk. It's your clients. You have to maintain every portion of every relationship.
Mm.
So it's a lot more hands-on and long-term thinking. You can't just think transactional when you're 360 because you don't want to bite the hands that are going to feed you.
Mm.
You want to have those long-term relationships that in 2, 3 years, maybe when the market comes down, you've got good relationships that you can rely on to get through the low times as well as rewarding in the high times, which
Yeah.
is definitely a high time, and I think in the construction market in the U.S.
Awesome.
Interesting.
I want to go back to the 360 in a second. I just want to go back to number one, a lot hungrier. What what increased your hunger at that point? Did it like increase at that point for a specific reason, or were you always just at that level, Sam, for like 2, 3 years? I don't know,
No,
just out of
I
interest.
think that I think the WRS, and I'll tip my cap to the first firm that I was at, JAS Recruitment, really a small firm, but really good firm. They had a lot of good people. I think what the transition was for me was that there was a lot more opportunity to earn money in
Mm,
terms of commission structures and whatnot.
interesting.
At WRS, a lot
Cool.
more market openness for me to go out and do what I needed to do.
Cool.
So it was just opportunity driven, really,
Cool.
and it's something that I didn't get there. But yeah, that was probably the most. And to be honest with you as well, when the first really decent commission. Well, I look back at it when my first actual commission in like a 360 was probably only, $800 or $900
Mm,
for a 360 deal. It was a really
Mm.
small 40K job, so it was about a 9K fee. But I
mm.
got all of it, and I was like, oh. Well, I was like, that's a lot. And then I look back at it
Mm.
now and I'm like, I would be terrified if I was doing that now.
Mm.
But I look back and from a starting point, I was like, oh, I love getting 100% of, a 9K deal.
Yeah,
So it's kind of eye-opening to be like, oh, I can earn a lot more if I just take control of everything.
Yeah,
interesting.
really interesting. What I'd love to, because I'm curious, because still 620 from 180 to 200, that's still a huge difference. So I'm curious in terms of, and definitely it sounds like a part of it was, transitioning to 360. But what were you doing differently in that year, Sam? Were you like doubling the volume of calls? Were you, spending more time doing BD? What were you doing differently in terms of volume or activity that allowed you to hit 620, do you think?
Yeah, I think part of that is definitely the time that I was putting in. I worked a very long day every day,
Mm,
and it was more so I think as well learning how to go about every part of the recruitment process to the best of my ability. I was still quite raw as a recruiter. I've had some really great mentors here at WRS who have taught me how to do things and how to say things and how to approach objections and all that, which is I think allowed me to progress as fast as I have. But yeah, it's definitely just putting in the hours, and then it just kind of comes second nature at that point. Once you have your process in place and you know how to repeat it, it's just rinse and repeat.
Mm.
mm.
What hours were you working, Sam? That you said they jumped up in hours. Can you give us an idea of what the jump was?
Yeah, it's the hours that I'm doing now still as well. It's pretty much I'm in, 6:15, 6:30 in the morning. And then I stay probably till at the latest, well, at the earliest, I'd say like 7:30. But
Cool.
there's going to be other times where, because in the US it's interesting because I've got different clients in different time zone as well. So I can
Mm,
be, in at 6:30 working Eastern time and 7 to 9, but then, from 5:30 or 5 p.m. on, on California time, it's still only 2 p.m. So you've got a lot of day left to get into talking to candidates or talking to clients. So just again, being willing to go past the typical 9 to 5, I think
yeah,
allowed me to progress faster than someone might otherwise.
interesting.
Interesting.
And on your third year, how many extra clients did you need to win? This is a tough question. You might not know, Sam, but I'm just curious. How many extra clients did you need to win in that year in order to hit the 620? Do you have any idea, like a rough count?
Yeah, I did my 620 with about 9 clients.
Cool. Oh,
I
wow,
think,
interesting. I
yeah.
mean,
So
that's
it wasn't a huge number.
yeah.
I think
Um,
I'll attribute a lot of my success to my mindset,
mm,
naturally, that I've went into when I did win a client. It's also burned me a fair bit as well. But my mindset going into winning a client was, to be fair, I almost acted like I was a retained recruiter on their roles, even though I was on a contingent
mm,
basis. I was hyper focused on filling a singular role that they gave me, and
mm,
making sure that I got them results.
mm.
So that way, hey, I can do this. I can perform for you. What's next? What can I do
Yeah.
for you? This, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So I think that worked out well for me. I think I've gotten a lot of repeat business from a lot of those clients that I've brought on.
Nice.
So it's been the mindset, the number
Mm.
one tool, the mindset of
Yeah.
just wanting to be the best and wanting to succeed, and wanting to be their preferred recruitment partner. When they
Makes
need
sense.
something, they go, what, Sam can do that for me.
And were those nine, all those nine clients, new clients in that year, Sam, just to understand that, you won nine new clients that year and then kept them, and then you managed to get to 620 on those new.
Yeah, a couple of them were late in 23, because I
Cool.
started my journey in, like, 360 journey in August or September of 23.
Okay, cool.
So up from, August, September, October, I was leading up, winning a few clients, and then January hit, and it kind of all started to take off.
Cool.
Mm.
So, sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to. Do you have any other questions around that, Sam, or can I jump on to the next one?
Yeah.
I'm probably transitioning into the BD side now. That's what I was gonna
Cool. That's
get
what I
to
was going to
next.
go into
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
cool.
I was
Go ahead.
thinking that there's probably a recruiter right now thinking, what the hell does Sam do during the day? I want to know what he does, like what his day plan is, and how he's organizing his time. Because I think this is the biggest difference between top billers and normal billers or average billers is when you look at their day, it's organized very differently, if that makes sense. And I think there's a common theme between what top billers are doing compared to other recruiters. So would you mind giving us an insight, Sam? So you're in at
Yeah.
6:15. What does an average day look like in Sam's world for you to be hitting those numbers, do you think?
Yeah, I don't have my it's at home actually, but I could have shown you. I've got my sort of day planner, that I go through, and it's very, to be fair, it's very cookie cutter. It's
Mm,
the same every day, but it's
Mm,
just different priorities and different times.
mm,
Uh, so, 6:15 to probably around 8:30 when we do our morning circle up. It's two things. It's either speaking with decision makers of companies, and that's actually something that I like to keep to myself, just because I think it's something that I don't think a lot of people do. A lot of people are afraid to call at 6:45, seven
mm.
o'clock in the morning to these
Interesting.
mm,
people, just because
interesting.
they're afraid to upset them.
Mm,
But at the end of the day, I think if you're gonna talk to someone, and you're gonna upset people. I've upset people, but for the most part, you're gonna be able to find people who haven't started their day yet, who
mm.
are gonna be able to have at least a 5-minute conversation with you while they're having a coffee, or driving to work or whatnot. So I typically take that time to talk to decision makers, and I've been blessed, because typically construction folks, it's just kind of like an industry status quo, but they're typically early risers that get started. So
Interesting.
it's proven easier to, I think, find time in those decision maker schedules before they get swamped down in meetings throughout the entire day, to call them in the mornings, or after afternoons. But yeah, so I use that time to either call candidates or clients, depending on what my priorities are for the day.
Hmm.
How many jobs I have on, or whatnot. And then 8:30, we do a little huddle with the whole team here at WRS. Just what has everybody accomplished the day before? What's your plans for the day? And then after that, I'm straight on back on the phone again, from 9 a.m. till about noon. Um, I do candidate outreach for the most part. Those are where I'm calling all the candidates for my jobs, hot jobs that I have on. Noon to 1, I do a midday workout where I typically go out for a run
Oh,
around
cool.
Tampa. Um,
Nice.
1 to 3:30 is straight back on to candidates again. I'm a call as you find type of person. So I'm just scrolling. I see someone I like, I call them, get on them right away. So I'm pretty much calling all day, every day. And then 3:30 on to end of day is typically more geared towards business development and calling decision makers and companies throughout the Southeast US.
Wow,
Awesome.
interesting. So
I just
you're
want to
really
jump.
doing,
Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're really doing bar the morning, which might vary. I'm guessing you said depending on if you have jobs on or not. You're doing every day like 3 hours of BD. Is that right? You said from 3:30 to end of day, you're doing business development. Is that accurate? You're kind of doing at least 3 hours of BD every day. Does that sound too much, or am I
Yeah,
back?
you know what? That probably is a little bit too much just because it does vary. I get into rabbit holes of if I do think I'm starting to find the right people for a search, I'll just keep on it. I
Double
won't
down,
I
yeah.
won't stop and go off if I think I'm doing well, or especially if I don't have anyone, if I haven't found
Mm.
anyone, that's especially when I have to double down and say,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, well, you got to kick it into gear. So I'd say BD is probably more so like an hour and a half
Cool.
to
Yeah,
2 hours of the day.
yeah.
Cool. And what I would
Sounds.
love to know, Sam, so you call you start dialing at 7 a.m. trying to get hold of decision makers. What are you saying to them to try and spark their interest? Because I'm guessing they probably get lots of calls from recruiters throughout the day. Maybe not that early, but they probably
Yeah.
receive like 5 or 10, maybe every day in some case. So what are you saying to try and spark their interest or differentiate yourself, do you think?
Um, Differentiate myself. I think that's going to come a lot of my personality. I
Mm.
think people find it easy to speak to me, especially over the phone.
Mm.
I kind of lead off with a little bit of I guess not necessarily a joke, but just kind of like a chuckle type intro. I just I'll give you my typical intro, which is
I was
if
just
I'm
about to ask,
calling,
yeah.
yeah, if I'm calling you, I say, hey, is that Ben? So yeah, it's Ben. Hey Ben, it's Sam Kippen over with WRS Construction. Just so, like right out of the blue, you don't know who I am. I'm just calling you right here out of the blue. But the reason why I'm calling you is this, that, and the other. Do you think it's worth maybe having a 5 minute conversation here?
Mm.
And typically I get a chuckle of, listen, you don't know who I am. I'm just calling you out of the blue, and they're like, yeah, I don't know you. Who the hell are you? But yeah, that's typically my listen. Apology, not even apologies, but just hey, I'm calling you out of the blue. You've got no idea who I am. So just
Mm.
kind
Yeah,
of getting that out of
interesting.
the front of not necessarily going right into the pitch, but giving them
Mm.
the expectation of it's probably a recruiter call, but let's
Yeah.
let's hear them out anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
feel like
think
so much to do with the success. I mean, I'm not a cold caller by any means, but I feel like the tone and the way that you approach it with, yeah, as you said, like the tone and the nuances and how you're speaking make quite a big difference as opposed to like every word you're saying. If that
Yeah,
makes sense, that's what I
yeah.
feel like it makes quite a big difference.
Yeah,
Um,
a phrase that I love to use, especially because I'll hear them say, "I'll be, hey, it's Sam over with WRS Construction," and they'll be like, "Okay," and I'll be like, "Yeah, no, you're right to be confused, just because you've got absolutely no idea who I am.
yeah,
mm,
I'm calling you out of the blue, but here's why I'm calling you." And then so it's almost like a soft landing into you should be confused.
yeah.
I'm the worst for cold calling you, but here's why I'm doing it.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a nice little pattern interrupt as well, isn't it? It's like most people
Mm.
wouldn't approach it in that way, so
Mhm.
I can see
Yeah.
why that's kind of
Most people
refreshing
try
in a
and
way.
do the opposite where they're like, "Hey, you do know me. Remember we had a chat like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
couple of weeks ago." It's like, "What? No."
Yeah, but no, I found a little bit of success in that just because I feel like it takes people's guard down. There's no expectation
Mm.
of I'm not really selling anything. I'm not gonna sound super salesy.
Mm.
Just want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And once so you've managed to grab their interest and they're like, "Hey Sam, yeah, I'll hear you out for 60 seconds." What are you selling to them after that in order to grab their interest even more? Because they can still say no, can't they? So what are you saying after that in order to uh spark another interest or
Yeah.
get them on another call?
You know what? I almost have it's funny because I almost have the mindset of as soon as they are willing to have a conversation with me, I automatically think they're a buyer. And
Mm,
I just go into an assumption like you probably need my help if you're willing to have the conversation.
mm.
So I almost go into an assumptive close immediately in
Oh,
saying,
interesting.
oh, this is what I do. I saw online that you guys are in the same space. Figured it might be worth us, connecting. Do you guys have any hiring troubles? Or you have any open roles at the moment? Or are you guys all good?
Mm,
And so that typically, leads into, well, we have 10 other recruiters that we work with, or we have an internal team, or we have this, that, and the other. I mean, there's so many ways for them to go down that rabbit hole, but I just go into a questioning line
cool.
of questioning there. All right, well, great. Love that you want to talk to me. Um, what's going on with your recruitment? How you guys doing? So
Mm,
just getting a little bit of information on the front end, because I feel like a lot of recruiters, and I see it, in our office when people are starting to get into BD, which is they want to start selling right away. Well, this is what I
mm,
do. This is what I can do for you. I can help you out. Where in reality, you should really take a step back and say, all right, well, how can I help you? What's even your problem? Do you have a problem? Would it make sense for me to help you? Is a better
yeah.
question.
That's really
Um,
interesting. Sam, so
yeah,
you're doing the assumptive, like you need my help, but you're also, if they give you the I'm working with 10 recruiters, oh, how's that going? How long's the role been open for? And you're
yeah,
still struggling to fill it. How many candidates have they sent you around? Are they any good? So you're kind of, I'm guessing, going into that questioning to
yeah.
make it an obvious choice to speak to you next. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, yeah. Ask the question and then question the answer.
Mm,
That's every question that I ask. Okay, well, that's the answer. Well, why is it that you're having a problem? I mean, do you think it's because you're not building a good enough relationship with these recruiters? Have you not given them enough information? Are they not working on it hard enough? And
mm,
that's where you can go into a true consultative approach, which
mm,
is, and I feel like a lot of some of the best recruitment companies do this, but a lot of recruitment companies do not, which is using other forms of recruitment, exclusive or retained recruitment. I think everybody's like taboo. When I first started out, it was like taboo to even talk about like a retained agreement. Like, why would they pay you up front when they can just pay you on success of
mm,
completion? Like,
Mm,
nobody's going to do a retained. But once you start normalizing it and talking about it a little bit more and proving that it's actually a more successful type of recruitment than anything else, then it gets a lot easier to talk about and consultatively say to any client that you're with, this is going to be the best and cheapest option for you.
mm,
And that's, that the cheapest word is what gets a lot of them.
mm.
interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what percentage of your work is contingent to retained at the moment, Sam?
Oh, it's very, very small retained. I've started to win a little bit more on the retained front just by talking a lot about it, but I'd say it's 95% contingent
Cool.
still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. Interesting. Um, and I had another question. I would love to. What are the typical problems? Because I'm sure because you've had so many calls, I'm guessing there's certain answers that that like intuitively make you think, yeah, this is going to be a good client. I can fix this problem. What kind of answers? Maybe from the first question, what's going on with your recruitment at the moment? What kind of answers are you getting from companies at that stage? Do you think?
Yeah, it's the biggest objections that I get there is, we've got an internal person or team that oversees that, and a lot of the times that's kind of where it ends. They're not
Mm,
willing to even entertain spending money if they have people in house.
mm,
Some companies are typically the bigger ones who understand that if you have one recruiter on 25 different roles, probably not going to be the most efficient use of anyone's time.
mm,
But it's going to be internal versus they may have recruitment partners in place already that they're, and that's a lot of the objection as well is a lot of companies say, well, we've either worked with recruiters in the past that haven't worked out or have been very transactional and
mm,
don't provide long-term, good, stable employees. Um, those two are probably the biggest objections that I run into, as well as say a third one. Let me think here. Internal, external. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's really the only biggest two that I run into. Other than that, they're just maybe trying to fill it internally.
Mm,
They don't need my help at the time. But those three objections are probably the most relevant that I hear day in, day
interesting.
out.
And how do you overcome them, Sam? What's the best way to overcome them when they say stuff like that? When they say like, "Oh, we've got an internal team. Oh, we've already got recruiters." Is there like one or two ways that you found is the best way to kind of wiggle your way in, as it were?
Yeah, I try to just keep the conversation going as long as I can by asking questions and just keep poking.
Mm,
A typical response to, well, we already work with recruiters or we have an internal team was, that's great. That's awesome that you see the value in having recruitment partners, or you see the value in having an internal team. It's a full-time job in itself. It's hard to do to find really good people. So just reassuring them that they're doing the right thing
Mm,
by having recruitment partners or having recruiters, and then saying, well, what's their biggest struggle with finding people, or what types of roles are you typically using to have recruiters fill,
mm,
and then just letting them go,
mm.
mm.
ask the question and let them talk.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then typically I'm guessing it'll end up with some sort of answer saying they're struggling because they don't have enough time, or it's too much of a niche skill set, or there's not enough talent on the market, or, I'm guessing one of those reasons.
Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's it's always the same. Uh, there's so many jobs open. There's not enough people to fill all of
Mm,
them, or
Mm,
it's really tough to get these people to make a change, especially when the U.S. market is. I mean, the construction market. A lot of the times, you're not. There is young talent, but at the moment, there's a lot of kind of old guard that is exactly what companies want.
mm,
It's not necessarily a lot of them are, I think, developing talent. A lot of the clients that I work with, and fair enough, they work with me because they do want a plug and play solution. They don't want to, they're maybe in a position where they can't train and develop someone. They need someone
mm,
now that can step in and do the role. So I think that's a lot of the struggle is finding people who they can let loose and just go and do the role, rather than
mm,
having to hold their hand or whatnot. And those people are very difficult to find. And
mm.
ones that are not, taking a new job every year and a half, 2 years, that's a big struggle as well.
mm. I just want to, because I quick, cold calling is still your main method of BD, isn't it, Sam? So that's, am I right in saying that?
Cold calling is my method for everything. I
Cool.
don't really do a lot else, to be
Cool.
fair, in terms of BD or candidate recruitment.
Cool. And that's awesome. You've obviously chosen something and then mastered it, which is brilliant. I just got sent back to a time when I was doing cold calling. I don't do much anymore, but it was quite energy draining. And to do it, because it really depended on who, if I spoke to someone who's a douchebag, it really sucked my energy. If I spoke to someone good, it kind of gave me energy. But it was a
Sure.
massive high and low day. So I'm wondering, do you get those highs and lows? And if so, how do you manage them if you're doing cold calling every single day back to back? Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, there's definitely highs and lows. I mean, you'll get a day where you get, 30 voicemails, and then the one guy you
Mm,
talk to tells you to screw off.
mm,
And that's recruitment. That
mm,
just comes with the territory. You're
yeah.
gonna
Mm,
have more people than not say, yeah, no, I'm not really that interested, or don't call me again, or how the hell did you get my number?
Mm,
But other than that, I think what really motivates me or gives me energy is sometimes, turning a no into something.
mm,
I try to get something out of every call, whether it be, all right, well, you're not interested. Great. Well, can you give me a recommendation to a company or a person, or, what's your experience in this space? Can you tell me a little bit about it?
nice.
You're always trying to learn something. These guys know more than us at the end of the day
mm,
about their craft. So,
mm,
a lot of guys will hang up on you and say, no, I don't want to talk to you. But you
Mm,
might get one or two that say, yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about this mechanical company or general
mm,
contractor. It might be someone you want to go after. That gives me, when I get those types of calls and I try to do that and I actually get a result from it, that gives me a lot of encouragement and excitement to, now I've got something else to go after.
mm,
So that gives me energy. And you know what? I think what else gives me a lot of a lot of glee is I love it when, I'm really grinding away at something or it's hard. And this goes past recruitment. It's in working out, it's in life, it's in everything. If you're really working hard at something and it's really difficult to do, and you're like, oh, it'd be so easy to just stop and not do this. But then once you get to the finish line or you get to the end of the day, the sense of accomplishment for me is like it gives me like zen at the end of the day to
Mm,
know that I did give like everything that I possibly could. And I was like, all
mm,
right, I didn't leave anything on the table today. So that gives me like a sort of peace at night, and I'm able to fall asleep without my mind racing, thinking, well, I could have done this better today, or I could have done that.
mm. Love that, man. I have exactly the same feeling. It's funny you said that, like a zen at the end of the day. It's like, ah, yeah,
Yeah.
I gave it my all. It's cool. I can
My head
relax.
hits the pillow and I'm out within 10 seconds. Yeah, that's the one.
And it's interesting, from what you said, it sounds like you kind of gamify it in your head a tiny bit. It's like, oh, okay, I know I'm going to get a lot of no's, but if I can get a bit of information of reference, if I can turn this into something positive, then that's a little dopamine hit slash win. So it sounds like
Yeah.
you're kind of gamifying it slightly in your head, Sam, which is
Yeah, yeah. I
interesting.
try to win something over.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I try to make sure it's a win rather than a loss. Yeah.
Mm. Interesting, man.
And I just want to go back to the cold calling. So it sounds like definitely your process is kind of asking questions and trying to figure out what the pain points are before kind of going into a solution.
Hmm.
But I remember on our pre-call, Sam, some of your calls, I'm not sure some or all of them, you kind of present a candidate as well on the call. Is that in every call, or is that just some calls? Like
In
when
terms of
does the
like
can
BD calls.
yeah, do you present the candidate at that point, or is it mainly
Yeah.
asking questions? Maybe you can
A lot of the
remind me.
times I don't have a candidate to present when I'm doing BD calls.
Interesting.
And that could be honestly, it could be a little downfall to why I don't win more business. Um,
Mm,
but but yeah, no, for the most part, I'm just trying to relationship build. I think it'd
mm,
be a lot easier if I had someone that was a plug and play.
mm,
But at the same time, I think it goes a lot to qualifying of a client as well. If I
mm,
have someone that they're very interested in, yeah, they're more likely to engage with me, but I still don't know if that's a good client or not.
mm,
I think the way I do it, um, I'm able to get more information on if this client's going to be a longer term fit for me. The best I love the response that I get a lot is, well, you know what, send me over some people to look at, and if I like them, I'll sign terms with you.
mm,
And my response to that is, listen, that's totally fine if that's how you do things, but that's not how I recruit.
mm,
I do more legwork up on the front so that I'm making sure that I hit the nail on the head, and then I'm
Mm,
not going back and forth with you. So respectfully, listen, that's just not the way that I do things. If that's the way
mm,
you do things, totally fine. But it just wouldn't be the best partnership just because that's not the way I operate. And I think that creates a little bit of respect of, listen, I am an expert in what I do. I have a process. I follow it. You have yours, that's fine. If it's not lined up, then it's not lined up. At the end of the day, you can't work with everyone. Is you just want to find people who are the most like-minded.
yeah, interesting. Sorry about that, Sam. I'm not sure if that distracted you, Sam.
No,
no,
But
no,
my
you're
camera
okay.
keeps on going. I'm like, no.
No, 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 totally fine.
Cool, really interesting. I'm just curious as well. So there might still be some people sitting there, maybe new recruiters or people that haven't hit 620K. And they're like, Sam, have you got anything else for me that to help me reach your level? Like, is there anything that we've missed, Sam? Do you think? Maybe we haven't because you've given us a ton of value in this call, so thank you.
Mhm,
But is there
mhm.
anything that you think we've missed in terms of advice that you would give to a new recruit or recruiter that
Yeah.
hasn't hit the level of billings that you want to, that you're at the moment?
Yeah, something I think a lot of the new recruiters get into, especially on, because I think it's very valuable starting on the 180 side to understand
Mm,
what a good candidate is and how to speak to them and whatnot. But I think what I tell a lot of newer recruiters or younger recruiters, um, to like, I mean, listen in to me when I make a call to a candidate or I make a call to a client, because I have a flow about the way that I like to go about a call. That's again, it's questioning more so on the front end. It's not getting straight into here's what I've got, on the books. This is the role, this is the company, sell it and shove it down their throat. I think I've been able to be a lot more effective in selling opportunities to people when on the front end, you do more work on them, what's going on with your situation rather than, hey, listen, I've reached out to you. I'm Sam Kippen, WRS. I've got a great opportunity that I think you'd be a really great fit for. Is that something that you're open to, having a conversation about? Yes or no? All right, great. Well, what, tell me a little bit more about your current situation then. What's going on? Why are you even willing to have this conversation with me? So you're identifying pain points right up front. Listen, if they don't have pain points, it's probably not a candidate that you want to work with, because at the end of the day, it's probably not going to work out. If they don't have a reason why they're looking to move, or they don't have, so a lot of that on the front end is speaking to people about their pain points, understanding pain points, and then saying, all right, well, is this person actually looking to make a move? Are they going to be someone worth spending my time on? And at that point, you can again be like a consultative, like, hey, Ben, actually, what you're saying, I've typically found that if it's all about money, it's pretty much it's not a motivator that we typically work with. We find that people are more happy if they have different pain points or whatnot. So being honest with them and saying, hey, maybe this isn't the right move for you because I know this client isn't the best paying. They're more focused on, family oriented environments or whatnot. So I make sure to tell new recruits that they should do a lot more leg work on the front end, understanding why and what motivates their candidates rather than selling the opportunity. Because once you know what motivates them, then you can tailor your client pitch to what it is that they would like about this company or that company. Yeah. So I found that really effective in navigating the conversation that way in order to get my information that I need on the front end, and then being able to get them excited and interested on the back end.
Yeah, interesting. I think it's interesting what you said, that you think everyone should do 180, or should consider doing 180 first, and that's because you're having calls, you're learning how to discover pain points and people's motivators. And the other thing I didn't really consider is you're also really understanding the candidate to placement life cycle and the process from there. Am I right in saying that, Sam? Is that when you jumped into the 360, you really understood how to take candidates, through the full cycle or through a cycle?
Yeah, it wasn't, to be fair, my transition wasn't overly complicated. It was just you know what the process looks like now. Just do it for a client. The client qualification is the same as a candidate qualification. A job intake call is the same as a candidate intake call. You're asking the same questions. It's just about a different topic. So it was easy, but understanding how recruitment works on the front end and those candidate questions and making sure they're qualified, I think made it an easy transition into the 360.
Makes sense. Maybe that was part of your success, was that prior training 180 and then going straight into 360 with all of that prior knowledge. It's really interesting, actually. And maybe fewer recruiters would leave the industry if they had that transition from 180 to 360 instead of just going straight into a 360 desk, which is like, it's pretty mental if you think about it. Like, they know nothing about recruitment and they're trying to manage this whole cycle from start to finish that they have no idea about. It's quite insane, actually, if you think about it.
360 I mean, you're the recruiter, you're the account manager, you're the marketer, you're the client success manager, you're everything. You're the accounts chaser when they're not paying their invoice. I mean, you're everything. So it is a lot to undertake, and you have to have a certain type of resilience built up to actually succeed, I think, on the 360 and in recruitment or sales in general.
Have you noticed, because I'm guessing in your company you probably still have people that go straight into the 360 model, or maybe you don't, but have you noticed the things that people get stuck on when they jump straight into the 360 model, like from other recruiters? What are the first things that they get stuck with, or that become a bottleneck in the process, do you think?
We're trying to, here at WRS, we're trying to filter people through the 180, understanding the markets and making sure that they have a good grasp on what good looks like. But other than that, I can only really talk to my own experience right now, because I did face bottlenecks really early on, which was I was so excited to get into a 360 role and have my own clients that I probably took on clients that caused me more headaches than they did
Mm.
reward. People
Yeah.
that didn't really value my process, but loved getting people in their inbox that were good candidates, but
Mm,
didn't value how much it took from my end to find them and to get them interested and to get them engaged and stay on them, weeks and
Mm.
weeks and weeks at a time. So I think I got my hand burned a lot with working with clients that said yes, but I didn't qualify. As soon as I got
mm.
the yes, I was okay. Nothing else matters. I don't care. Give me the role and I'll
Yeah.
fill it.
I think that's
Um,
normal though, isn't it? When you're first starting out, it's kind of like you take the scraps with any business. You kind of just take what you're given because I guess it's a good learning process as well to some extent, isn't it? It's like you're still doing the work. I think I'm not sure what you think, Sam, but I think it's impossible to start off and not do that in a sense. You know what I mean? I think it's really difficult because it's like
it is.
with a
Yeah.
lack of experience, you kind of got to go through that in a way to kind of learn what good looks like, what bad looks like, and also still go through that process of hunting. Um,
No, it's true, but it's also, I think if I had listened more to the mentors or to people telling me, maybe that's not the because I feel like every salesperson, they're a bit stubborn. They want to do it their way and they think how they're doing it's right. I think that
mm,
way. Maybe
mm.
that's just me. Maybe I'm just egotistical.
No, I
But
think I
for
think I think a lot of people are the same, Sam.
but yeah, for the most part, I think because I've listened to a few pods where I've heard people say, the best thing I could have possibly done is just getting focused on finding out like good clients and being in a niche and taking more time on the front end to say, let's pump the brakes, let's not go a million miles an hour. Let's put the groundwork and lay that first so that it's going to be easier down the line.
Mm,
I think coming into a 360 role, if you do that, I've just read, I think it was either Sam or you, Ben, posted, this person billed 900K in their first year, but for the first 6 months, they've done nothing but industry research and
yeah,
understanding of their
that was
market.
Mike Williams. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I've listened to his as well. So
Mm,
he's a great example of, if you want to have a Mike Williams mindset right from the get-go on 360, you're probably going to be a lot more successful in the long run and probably in the short term as well. You can have
mm,
success in the short term like I have, but it's been truly running around like a chicken with its head cut off for me. I am
mm,
working in different markets all across the US. I'm bouncing from, a roofing client to a general contractor to a mechanical contractor. I'm not really in a position still where I am completely niche focused. I
mm,
am purely revenue driven. And I'm just like, if I can win revenue from it, great, I'm working on it.
mm,
So that's something that even I can improve on, especially because I want to get to $1 million biller a year.
mm,
That's my goal. So in order for me to do that, yeah, I have steps in place that I think would be beneficial for me. And I know that would be beneficial for me, but it's one of my biggest challenges is making that step into more of a niche focused I am who I do and I turn down other business that I could win
mm,
just because I only do this.
Mm.
I'm almost scared to do that because I don't want to see my numbers drop and I don't want to see my revenue go down or my commissions checks go down.
mm, mm,
But at the same time, I do understand fully 100% that it is something that I'm going to need to do if I want to have a long-term expertise outlook on any certain market. You can't
mm.
you can run around with a chicken with your head cut off, but you're going to get burnt out real quick, I think.
Really
Yeah, interesting.
interesting.
Thanks for the transparency,
I
Sam.
just had a
And
quick question on that, Sam, because you want to get to $1 million. I know you're not there yet. One of the things that you said you think you need to do is niche down. Is there anything else that you are predicting is going to happen in order for you to hit those numbers? Things you have to change in your current process or model that is going to allow you to get to $1 million?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to adjust um my BD approach. I think that I'm very stubborn in the fact that I want to be different. As I said from the first question, I was thinking like crazy, like how do I be just different than everybody that comes on and says mindset? Like I want to be different so bad. Sometimes I turn away from what's proven to work just because sometimes it gets, what I think of as like the spray and pray method of,
Mm,
sending a candidate to 20 different companies. You know, I hate that method just because I get pain points from clients saying I get 100 emails from you guys every single
mm,
day. So I'm,
mm,
in my mindset, I'm different because I'm not sending them an email. But at the same time, if I'm not able to get them on the phone, I can't win their business. So
mm,
it's a little bit that I have to think you're going to have to adjust how you approach BD. It's worked for you, but in order to go to the next level, you're going to have multiple touch points, text
mm,
message, email, Teams, phone call, anything. So that's going to be an adjustment of mine at that again. I'm a little bit stubborn in the fact that I resist going there just because I want to be different. But it's just at the end of the day, I've said this to my MD and to my SVP as well. I've just got to be held accountable to it, and I got
mm.
to have, I just got to do it. I just got to commit to it, and I got to do it, and then maybe the numbers take a dip for a month or two, but in the long run, I think I'm going to see them shoot up. So again, accountability is something that I think is important to me, and having an accountability partner and saying this is your niche, go for it and don't deviate from it,
Mm.
is something that's been a little bit beneficial here over the past few months for me.
Awesome, man.
Awesome. Cool. Sam,
Oh
thank you
wait, Ben,
so
are you
much.
are you ending it? I've got one more question
Oh,
before
cool.
you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you always got to ask, Ben. You always got to ask. It's a bit of a random question, but most people work out in the morning or the evening. I'm just curious why you chose in the middle of the day. Was that strategic, Sam, or was it just like I just prefer working out in the middle of the day? Out of interest.
Um, I was finding a hard time. I think early on, I tried working out in the mornings. I tried working out after work. I do put so much effort into work every day that I'm like, after work, there's no chance. I'm so
Mm,
mentally and like even physically exhausted from
mm,
just speaking to people all day, having mental
Mm,
battles all day. I just couldn't do it after work.
cool.
And I'm getting up so early already that again, I need some sleep as well. So I wasn't going to do it then. So I've just found, we've got a nice little gym here,
Oh, nice.
on our floor. So it's just been a nice little break up in the middle of the day as well. It's
Cool.
almost like a reset of, you get out, you get the sun in your face, you sweat a little bit, you go for an hour 15, and then you're back. And it's almost like, all right, well, now I'm reset. I've got a little bit juice going from a workout, and I can get back into it. So it's worked out for me well, where it just splits my day up really nice. It feels like
Nice.
2 days almost.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, it's a refresh. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
that's cool. I might
Cool.
actually try that.
Yeah, that's
Sam,
what I
that's a
was
good
thinking as
shout.
well.
Um, awesome. And yeah, Sam, thank you so much for today's pod, mate. I absolutely love listening to you, and you
Yeah.
provided a ton of value to our audience.
Great.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
just thank you so much.
that was a lot the struggle that I was coming on to as well. I was thinking about this over the past week, which was, coming onto the pod. It was kind of a double-edged sword for me because I was thinking of, am I doing it for myself because I love the recognition, and I love being out there in front of people like an expert, or am I doing it to share knowledge and share my experiences with people? And what I'll say to that is a little from column A and a little from column B. I did
Mm,
like being wanted and saying, "Oh, Sam, you are, you do well and you do good," which is great to understand accolades. But I think it is important for people who are top billers or top recruiters, you know, you can share all of your expertise and you can share everything that makes your life easier and works for you. At the end of the day, the only people that are going to incorporate it are going to be people who want to be top billers as well.
Mm,
So you
yeah.
can talk till you're blue in the face, but people got to want to do it. And if
yeah.
you're sharing it with people who want to and they get something out of it, then happy days. Hopefully some of them come to our company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. And I think it goes just to add on to that, Sam, I think literally every single top biller wants to be recognized as well. I think that's actually a deep motivation, probably for a lot of top billers, is that
Yeah.
they want to be recognized either as an expert. I think a lot of top performers have the same thing. But yeah, thank you for the transparency, man. And absolutely loved having you on. So thank you again.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a great conversation, and it's given me a lot to think about as well. Because I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, well, I've talked about this now. Now it's time to go ahead and do it.
Awesome, man. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Tune in for another episode next week, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Peace and love.